So hello everyone. We're here today with the lovely Wanitta. Wanitta, tell us, how long have you been diagnosed with diabetes?
Um, it's been, it's going on 46 years now. I was diagnosed when I was 21, and I'm now 66.
Wow, you're a veteran, huh?
Yeah, I think so. I really never expected to live this long. I really didn't.
Well, we're great to have you here with us. Let's start off with, when you were diagnosed, do you remember everything they told you, like how to manage it?
Well, kind of, I do. Actually, I diagnosed myself. I kind of knew what was wrong. And I went to the doctor and told him I thought I had diabetes, and he assured me that I did not. He said I was too young and I was too thin. And I said, well, I'm pretty sure I have diabetes. I'm really sick, and if it's not that, then something is terribly wrong. So he did it. I insisted that he test me, and he did. And he did a glucose tolerance test,
Mm-hmm.
and I was hospitalized within 24 hours. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it was really hard for me at 21 to stand up to a doctor, but I knew something was terribly wrong, and my brother had type 1 diabetes, so I knew what it looked like.
Hmm.
Initially, back then, um, there was beef and pork insulin. There was no whole blood testing. There were, I think it was called Clinitest tests that I did with the test tube, and you tested your urine, and it told you what your blood sugar was sometime over the last, I think, 4 or 5 hours, which, as far as I could see, was pretty much useless, especially when I had already taken, my insulin, my basal for the day. And I really don't remember the names of the insulin then, other than that they were beef and pork. I know at some point I was on NPH and R. I know at some point I was on Ultralente, and eventually, actually, I wish I could say I did well. I really didn't. I ended up in the hospital for like almost every year for a while, for about 30 days. And they would draw my blood around the clock and try to adjust my insulin. They would also feed me a diet that there's no way it would work. I mean, it was the exchange diet, but basically I was eating the same foods that anyone else would eat. And they couldn't even really get me regulated. But they would usually, the goal was to keep my blood sugar under 300.
Okay. Well, what exactly do you mean on exchange diet?
Well, it would be like kind of based on calories. And there
Uh,
were like fruit exchanges, bread exchanges, vegetable exchanges, and protein exchanges. And like a bread exchange was 15 grams of carbohydrate, and a fruit exchange I think was 10. But it might say, for instance, you could choose so many bread exchanges, so many fruit exchanges, and so on, based on kind of an appropriate caloric intake. Um, but there were no foods really off limits, other than I got the impression I was supposed to avoid sugar.
okay, so it was very generalized, broad brush of an approach.
Yeah, it was well, some of it was fairly specific. Like, for instance, it might say for breakfast I get 2 bread exchanges, a fruit exchange, and a protein exchange, like that. And then you had to do that every day. And I really had to eat exactly on time. I mean, even a couple of minutes and I'd be like in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So it was it wasn't very good. And I didn't, I think I was considered non-compliant because I really didn't see that anything they told me actually worked. If it had worked, I think I would have been more compliant.
What else have you tried before low carb, obviously?
Well, then I went on an insulin pump, and I went on an insulin pump as soon as they came out because I thought, boy, that's going to solve my problems. Well, it really didn't. It doesn't do anything more than what you program it to do. And that whole insulin to carb ratio, I kind of understand it now looking back, that there really is no way to get the insulin to actually peak at the same time when you've eaten a boatload of carbs. It's unpredictable how you're going to digest them. And, but I tried that. And I was really, for many years, I do think home blood testing helped me a bit. It did help me a bit. But I never really seemed to be able to test often enough. I think for me to really get enough data, I would have had to stay up all night. And I was a single mom and trying to work full time and sometimes trying to go to school at night and really just never felt well. Through the years, my health really suffered for it, and I did develop complications. And at one point, I hope you don't mind me just rambling on.
No, please do.
But okay, at one point, I had gastroparesis pretty bad, and I was really very thin, and it was difficult for me to eat. And I was in a lot of pain from neuropathy in my legs. And I really, of course I was getting older too, and I struggled with this for a number of years. I didn't have much supportive family. I think that could have helped through the years, but I don't know. Finally, when I heard about continuous glucose monitors, I thought, oh, I have to have that because then I'll have enough data to see what's going on and the doctors will be able to help me. Well, I got involved in the Night Scout project. Are you familiar with that?
No, do tell.
Well, it's a technology kind of innovation. Parents that have gotten different technology solutions for problems that aren't being addressed. And I actually was able to build my own Dexcom G4 receiver. And my insurance wouldn't pay for these things. So I was married at the time, and I said to my husband, I think this will help me. This is my receiver.
That's amazing. You might have to send a link on that, and we'll have to share a link on that in the comments or something. That's really cool.
Well, it works for me. I built 2 of them. I had to teach myself how to solder. And the reason I built 2 was so I could kind of switch them out. And I still use them because with the G4 Dexcom, the transmitters last over a year. And the sensors I use for over a month. Well, I thought with more data, the doctors would be able to help me. Not really. They didn't offer any suggestions. And that was kind of like, oh my, I wish they had told me that from the beginning. They always talked like it was my fault that I was in poor control. And they're not going to help me no matter how much information I provide. And then I went to Omaha, because I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, to see an endocrinologist there and asked to meet with their dietitian. And she assured me that I could eat whatever I wanted to and just take the appropriate amount of insulin. Well, with the Dexcom, I could see that didn't work. I mean, I could see right before my eyes that just did not work. Then on the Night Scout project, there's a Facebook group called CGM in the Cloud. And I would post there quite a bit and show my graphs and ask questions. And a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but every once in a while, someone would talk about standard deviation, or had I thought about low carb. And actually at first, I thought they were kind of nuts because it flew in the face of everything I'd been taught. It flew in the face of everything I'd been taught. And even recently, I'd gone to a dietitian, and she was she told me, I asked her about low carb, and she said that if I ate a diet that was higher in protein, that my body might get confused and use my heart as a source of protein.
What? That's
Yes.
ridiculous.
Well, it scared me. I mean, it scared me. I thought, well, I don't know. And but then I thought, well, that sounds like you'd have to have a pretty stupid body to do that. I mean, wouldn't that be pretty dumb? Well, then someone mentioned Dr. Bernstein in the book, and I thought, well, what do I have to lose? I really am not doing well, and I'm, not doing well, and I'm willing to do whatever. And I first started reading the book, and I was like, whoa, Nellie, are you kidding me? This sounds a little bit radical. But then I thought, well, what do I have to lose here? Try it, see if it works, see if you feel better. And it really has worked well. And I mean, it has been amazing. I feel better than I have all the previous years. And I've been doing as much as I can to follow his protocol for over 2 years now. And for me, that has meant the diet. And I switched from an insulin pump to MDI. I prefer it. After being on a pump for over 30 years, it may not look like it, but I have scar tissue. And wow. It affects the absorption. And also, I got kind of tired of fighting with insurance companies for insulin pumps and supplies and all of that, and running out of things and just feeling kind of at their mercy. So I thought, well, hey, what have I got to lose? I'll try MDI. And at first I went on Levemir. And for me, I wasn't doing that well with it. I was having to take 3 shots a day, and I couldn't really get the dose right. And it would be just amazing if a doctor could help you with that sort of thing.
Right.
But they don't. And then I heard about Tresiba, and I thought, well, I'll give that a go. And I've done pretty well with 2 shots of Tresiba. And that's what Dr. Bernstein recommends too. And I use regular insulin for meals. Sometimes I'll do a correction with a faster acting insulin like Humalog, or I figured out, okay, I started hearing about diluted insulin, and I thought, well, that makes sense because 1 unit of insulin drops me 60 points. And I have to wait till I'm kind of out of range to do that. So I managed to get diluting, and I started diluting my insulin for corrections, so the fast acting, so that it's like at 50% and it only drops me about 30 points. It's been a real process, and I've gotten better and better with it. I may not do as well as everyone else. I don't think it's easy, but it works. And my A1Cs for over 2.5 years now have been 4.9 to 5.5.
Yeah, I'd say you're doing
in the
pretty well
last
then.
year. Yeah, I think I'm doing pretty well. I feel good about it. And I have far fewer lows. And I once Googled something on that, and it's like only one in something like 70,000 do that well. So I'm okay with that. But it's still, it'd be nice not to have to do any of this. But that promise of a cure in my lifetime, I no longer believe that story. For whatever reason, I'm not going to see that. But my gastroparesis doesn't bother me anymore. I don't have pain in my legs. I enjoy cooking because I can cook foods that I can eat, and it's not going to make me feel bad for the rest of the day or evening. Tonight I had chicken thighs baked with cauliflower rice, and it was good. I seasoned it well. I had a lot of difficulties this last year. My husband died. Also, I was diagnosed with, it's almost ridiculous, 3 additional illnesses. And one is fructose malabsorption. So I can't eat fruit anyway. And I learned that fructose is actually in some vegetables, so I have to kind of watch that too. I also have, it's called microscopic colitis. That's a different type of autoimmune disease that further limits what I can eat, not just low carb, but it's doable. I can do that. And then I developed silent reflux, which is really no big deal. So it's not unusual with type 1 diabetes to have other autoimmune diseases. I don't know where the fructose malabsorption came up in this whole mix, but I thought, well, are you kidding me? I already don't eat fruit. But that's what they learned. And it is what it is. And my goal is to keep going and to stay as healthy as I can.
That's great, and I think you're taking the right approach with that. Yeah, with autoimmune diseases, it seems they're all very related, and I assume now you're probably skewing more towards eating more meat and less vegetables because more and more stuff's coming off the menu, right?
Right. But it's okay. Mostly doing low carb was already in the right thing, even for these other issues. I didn't really have to change a whole lot. Just little things, like she told me not to eat iceberg lettuce with it. It's called a FODMAP diet. It's FODMAP. So in addition to low carb, I'm also following a FODMAP diet, and it didn't require that many changes, and so anyway, a lot of my health, I'm really grateful for the Night Scout Project, CGM in the Cloud, and Dr. Bernstein. Because if I had not been able to really see what my blood sugar was doing, I would not have been led to make these changes. And I'm just really grateful that I did. I sometimes get frustrated when I try to reach out to other people, and it's a joke to them. And my vision is important to me. I don't want to lose my legs. I don't want to go through kidney failure. My brother died when he was 27 from complications of type 1.
How long did he have it?
And he was probably preschool when he developed it. And so he died when he was 27, And I was diagnosed that same year when I was 21. And that scared the bejeebers out of me. And, you know, but just even 7 years, he had to sharpen his own needles, boil his own syringes. A lot changed in 7 years. Anyway, so I feel fortunate that I've lived to see a lot of good changes, but I really, really get sad and kind of angry that doctors don't share this information, because my endocrinologist, I see a PA, and she knows everything I'm doing is working, and she thinks it's marvelous, but she won't share the information with anyone.
Huh. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, it's not the standard of care is what as I'm understanding it. And even when I go up there, she's like a cheerleader, but she's whispering. And to me, that's sad. And I remember I ran into a diabetic educator that had seen me when I was really sick years before. And I told her what had happened and how things had changed for me and how well I was doing. And I wanted her to know how. And I could tell she kind of looked down. She was like ashamed. It was like she already knew. She already knew everything I was telling her. It was just not anything she cared to share with me at the time.
Sort of like a don't ask, don't tell kind of thing, huh?
It was exactly that. And I thought, how sad that she would have just let me continue to suffer and knew everything that I was telling her, that it worked. I don't know. I thought that pediatric study would change a lot. You know, the one that they published the paper and everything. And I actually was a participant in that. And I was, you know, really proud to be a participant in that. But as long as doctors tell people that they can eat whatever they want to and just take more insulin, that's what people are likely to do.
It's unfortunate because from the doctor's perspective, since it's going against the standard of care, they're held liable for anything that goes wrong. So if they recommend it and someone gets too low and goes into seizure, well, that's on their head. But if they just get the standard of care and you're fine for a few years.
Protected.
Yeah. If you end up with complications 20 years down the line, that's not their problem. That's just the way things go. It's
Right.
Pretty sad.
The other thing that's hard for me too that I think about is I don't have the horrible low blood sugars that I used to have. I mean, I would go from really high to really low. I still have some lows, but usually it's, I don't know, I seem to be clear-minded even when my blood glucose is a little bit too, on the low side. Way too low, in fact. I don't get any kind of real symptoms until at some point my face will feel numb.
I've never experienced that myself, but I know what you mean by not really having as grave of a side effect when you're below 70.
No, I'm still coherent and functioning in the 40s. Now,
Yeah.
I don't suggest anyone should do that, and I always correct. I correct when I see myself dropping below 70, or even at 70, it just kind of depends on, a lot of different factors. But what I used to just think was that the doctors would tell me what to do, and they would have me come in every 3 months. They might make a small adjustment, and then I was supposed to just manage for another 3 months. And now I kind of adjust my insulin as needed. And it hasn't been set it and forget it. different, if my weight goes up or down, change in seasons, if I'm going through a difficult stress period, everything affects it. And if I waited for 3 months to see the doctor for them to suggest a change, that's how it used to be, and it didn't work at all.
In the end, it
So
really is. You have to have control. You have to be able to take control of it, or it will control you. No doctor can tell you what you need to do.
but I trusted the doctors. I really did. If they tell me, come back in 3 months and we'll look at your whatever, and I just thought I was supposed to be putting this in their hands and that they would help me. But when I finally got the CGM and I went to the doctor and I had all this data for her to look at, and she didn't make a single recommendation other than, I said, well, this is alarming all night long. My blood sugar is high all night long and it's keeping me awake. Her suggestion was, are you ready for this?
Oh, I'm ready.
Turn off the alarms.
Oh, jeez.
That was the only advice she gave me. The only advice she gave me. And I really woke up then and realized that it wasn't my fault that my blood sugar had never been in good control. I had never been given any information that would make it otherwise. And that if I didn't find a way to take control of it myself, my days were numbered.
Yeah,
So
I felt the same way when it finally clicked in my head as well. So that was a sort of epiphany moment.
yeah, it was. When she told me to shut off the alarms at night and didn't make any adjustments, and this is an endocrinologist. This is, an endocrinologist. So I don't, mean to, they've got to start doing better than that.
Yeah.
Even if they just tell people you're on your own, you might want to try low carb.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And you mentioned you had several complications, the gastroparesis and the neuropathy. Was there anything else that got better once you switched to low carb?
Well, oh yeah, for sure. Definitely, once my blood glucose got better, my moods got better.
Mhm.
I was not so terribly depressed or anxious. My moods improved tremendously. I would not be surprised that I have complications that I'm not even aware of, but I'm not suffering anymore. I don't suffer with pain or the inability to eat. I weigh 140 pounds, which is a good weight for someone 5'5". When my gastroparesis was really bad, I weighed 118 pounds and I was somewhat skeletal. So I wish I could say it's all been just easy peasy, but for me it has not. I've really struggled with it through the years. So I'm forever grateful to the Night Scout Project, CGM in the Cloud, and Dr. Bernstein, and all the people in Type 1 Grit that have been a tremendous support.
We'll definitely have a link to all
So
those in the description.
well,
Very important for people.
yeah, for me, I think I was kind of well known in the beginning because I did go to the trouble to build my own Dexcom receiver and to find a way to make that technology available to me, even though insurance wouldn't help me. Now Medicare will cover it, but I'm just kind of like stubborn and just stick with the system I built because it's reliable and it's the cheapest way I could go. But at the time when I did that, and I think especially because I'm older, people were very much impressed. And having to teach myself to solder was not easy. And for electronic soldering is kind of tricky. The other thing was I had cataracts at the time. So I wasn't really able to see that well, and I still did it.
How are your
I think
cataracts now?
I had them removed. I
Oh,
had surgery, had
okay.
to have, but that they weren't the fast, I don't know if they were diabetes related or not. I really don't know. Um, could be, they never really said specifically, but my vision is better, and I don't have any other eye problems, no retinopathy, and for 45 years, I'm feeling pretty good. Better, really better at 66 than I did at 25.
Wow.
Yeah, and I never would have expected that. But um, it's been interesting. It's been interesting, and um, I feel real positive for the future of young people like you. I really do. There's a company called Bigfoot that's going to come out with an insulin pump that I think is very promising. It will be a closed loop system, and I think it will have the ability to set your own range as far as what you feel is a healthy, normal blood glucose. But anyway, I kind of watched that company because I could see possibly wanting to go on an insulin pump. I would never, ever want to go back to the way I ate before. I don't think it's healthy for anyone. That whole idea that you can eat whatever you want, nobody should follow that advice.
Yeah. When I got that advice, I got that exact advice from my dietitian when I was diagnosed, and I was a kid at the time, so it's basically a woohoo, free meal ticket, eat whatever I want,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
didn't work out well.
no,
Yeah.
it doesn't. And I always thought I was doing something wrong, and it wasn't me. It wasn't what they advise really doesn't work. And the idea that, oh, I've had more than one endocrinologist they want me to increase, whoops, sorry, they want me to increase my A1C so it's not below 7.
Oh my God. Are you kidding?
No, they would like to see it up in the 7s.
I'll tell
Why
you.
would it be a good thing to have abnormal blood glucose? How
If you
could that possibly be good for a human body?
if you actually look at studies, and I mean, already documented a few others have posted a lot of slideshows of pictures of these results. It's very clear that your risk of all sorts of diseases, heart disease, cancer, all the rest, are astronomically higher, even at 7. It's crazy that
Right,
yeah. But
right.
anyways,
But nice talking with you, Justin. That's pretty much my story.
all right. Well, now we're done with that. We'll leave with our final thought. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the diabetics that might be watching this?
Just stay strong and keep, don't be too critical on yourself. If you have a bad day, just, keep trying, keep learning, keep paying attention to what you're seeing with what you eat and how you're doing your insulin. And you know I do think Dr. Bernstein has some very, very good points. I don't mean to say anything real negative about insulin pumps, but I think there are problems with them. I agree with Dr. Bernstein. Not to say something in the future might not be awesome, but I was on a pump for 30 years. That causes scar tissue, and that insulin does not absorb. And my skin looks fine. It's been below the surface. So I kind of follow every little tidbit I can pick up from the book or other people or just watching the videos. And if I'm not doing it, I give it consideration. I think the man is brilliant.
It's definitely worth trying. And I agree with getting insulin pumps. It's a trade-off. You know, it's more convenient, but there's also issues that I just switch off it myself. And I'll probably make a video comparing the differences. I won't go into it now, but it's definitely a trade-off. But I guess we'll leave it at that. Thank you for telling us your story today. In summary, you started out very struggling for 44 years, had neuropathy, had gastroparesis, and now 2 years ago you made your switch, and now it seems that those conditions have reversed themselves mostly. Would that be right?
I don't have any problem. Also, I would have to say my energy level is better than I ever imagined possible. And I think that is not just because my diabetes is under control. I think the diet would help anyone. And it does affect your energy level and your clarity of thought.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, one last thing. What was your A1C before you made the switch?
You know, I was really trying. I'd gone from a 9 before I got a Dexcom. It was 9. Down to a 6 before I went low carb.
But even at a 6,
But
you're still struggling.
I was struggling because I could hardly eat anything to keep it at that level. I wasn't able, like I can eat now without having problems. You know, I cook more because it's like, well, yay, I can eat this and it's not going to cause me a problem. You know, now that I know what I can eat, it's so much easier. And I do eat more and I eat healthier. I can't, it's ridiculous how many vegetables I have in the refrigerator right at this moment. And I was a little strapped for cash this year, so I had a hunter hunt me a deer that he gave me. And I just had to pay the cost of processing the meat. So I made low-carb jerky this week. You know, I don't even think it has to be more expensive.
It doesn't.
To eat healthy.
Yeah, I eat cheaper than I ever had in my entire life. You just got to know how to
I think so. When you're not buying junk food and you just shop carefully, I don't think I spend more money.
Great. Well, we'll end it at that. A1C from
well, good luck with your project.
To 4.8 to 5.5. Very good job. Less complications.
Yes.
Great having you on today. Say bye to everyone. You have a
goodbye.